I once knew a guy that I traded with on the trading floor, and he used to say that they just came to me. That's what he would say. He also said that he could bend spoons with his mind. This is a true story, by the way. There's a lot of crazy people on the trading floor. Maybe he wasn't crazy, but he did say he traded psychically, so I don't know.
Hello, Wealth Builders. You're listening to Wealth Building with Options. Here's your host, Dan Passarelli.
Hey, Wealth Building family. Welcome to episode 41. That's a great idea. But before we jump in today, let's talk about how you can get the most out of the Wealth Building with Options community. Subscribe to the Wealth Building with Options podcast in your favorite podcast app. And if you're already a listener, you can get a whole lot more out of it with a paid subscription. When you subscribe with a paid subscription, you'll get video extra podcast episodes, so you can get hands-on video training about things we talk about on the show. Subscriber-only posts where I'll drill down on a stock event or trading opportunity and share trade ideas, which we're going to talk about today. You'll get all my covered call and cash secured put trades that I'm making in my real brokerage account. You'll get access to our monthly online Ask Me Anything webinar, and you'll get our unusual activity alerts on options income trades and so much more. To become a paid subscriber, just simply go to wealthbuildingpodcast.com and choose your subscription level. I am an idea man. That is what I do. A dreamer, I guess you could say. It's just kind of how I'm wired for whatever reason. When I was a kid, I would organize all the kids around the neighborhood and we would put on shows for our parents. When I got older, I was the guy planning the bus tours to go see the band. We would do theme parties. I'm still always organizing something, putting together big, elaborate trips for 20 people where we all go to another country and stay in an Airbnb. It's just what I do. Now, this is an age, if you will, where there's been kind of a cultural shift where we really celebrate the worker in a lot of cases, right? There's that sort of mentality running through at least a certain thread of the fiber of society these days. And, you know, the people who get the job done should be celebrated. Absolutely. And I'm not going to say but, because this is in addition, it's not a but. We also need to celebrate the people who put the whole shebang together, come up with the idea in the first place. Because without somebody dreaming up some new product, a new way of making it, and deciding to raise money and build a factory and hire people to do this thing, without somebody putting all that together to get the idea, there are no workers. So we need to kind of think about that as well. Now, what does that have to do with trading? Well, there are over 12,000 stocks listed on U.S. exchanges. And we're not going to trade them all. Barely going to trade any of them. Well, which ones? Well, we need ideas. We need investment ideas because we can't always just find them on our own. Maybe we can, and that's part of it. And we'll talk about that. But getting trading and investment ideas, man, there is something super valuable about that. All right, wealth building family, let's talk about where we might get some trade ideas as a wheel trader. Where do we get these darn things? Well, I once knew a guy that I traded with on the trading floor, and he used to say that they just came to me. That's what he would say. He also said that he could bend spoons with his mind. This is a true story, by the way. There's a lot of crazy people on the trading floor. Maybe he wasn't crazy, but he did say he traded psychically, so I don't know. So there are probably better ways to get trade ideas than from beyond or our third eye or whatever you want to say. One is services. So let's talk a little bit about that. You're listening to this podcast. That means you found it. That means you probably have looked around the internet for stuff on trading to learn or to directly look for trade ideas. But either way, I'm sure you saw something from someone who was volunteering to give you trade ideas. And right now, I'll say, for lack of a better word, trade ideas. And I'll explain why I say that in a minute. So as far as a service goes that might give you some indication what to trade, I want to just right off the darn bat break that down into two categories. First, there are services for, as an option trader, I'll call general trades. Okay, trades, not investments. And then trades for the wheel, which there are subcategories for. And let's start with part one. Let's start with this idea of services that sell stuff you can trade. All right. Well, first of all, and I'm putting these things very specific ways, when you have a podcast and you make daily videos and you write Substack posts and you write a book or two or three, words end up becoming very, very important. So I generally choose my words carefully. Not that I don't misspeak sometimes, because I do. Everybody who says thousands and thousands of words a day does, but what are you going to do? General places where somebody is selling you a thing you can trade, which I'll call a trade idea. A lot of them, they're not great. And you should be, what's the right word here? I just get done saying that I'm very careful about choosing my words, and now I can't think of the right darn word. I want to say skeptical. Maybe skeptical is the word. The word's not cynical. We never want to be cynical. Being cynical is the worst thing you can do. But skeptical, a healthy dose of skepticism can be okay. A lot of times when you find a service that recommends trade ideas, and I'm not talking for the wheel, and I'm not talking stock investments, I'm talking trade ideas. A lot of times, maybe they don't work, and it's hard to see if they work until you try it out. And you try it once, even the smartest person in the world is going to be wrong on some trades, so you got to try it out a bunch of times. You can look online and get some feedback, look at some third-party raters, see how many stars they get and such. But even the best people who give trade ideas, they mostly give just the entries and not the exits. And something ephemeral like options, those suckers, they expire. They're not buying, no option is buy and hold. Options are put it on and take it off later. If they're just giving you the trade idea, the entry, and not the exit, geez, man, that doesn't really do you any good. And that's something that, like is really, really important to me as a person who looks for trade ideas, but also a person who does whatever I can to help the trading world, like podcasting and such, at Market Taker Mentoring, which is kind of the other side of what I do besides what I do here with Wealth Building with Options. At Market Taker Mentoring, we do offer trade ideas. Now, I'm very specifically using that word because they are just true ideas. We have like a relationship with the CBOE where when a big professional trader makes a credit spread trade in big size, that comes right to our feed, and me and all of our subscribers for that see that. But I tell them right from the get-go, don't just blindly do this. This is a trade idea. And we give them the education to go along with it so that getting the idea is one step in the empowerment process, or makes the empowerment of becoming a trader one step easier. But it's still important to be the trader. And I find that to be really, really important. Now, let's move on to the thing that I think is most relevant to everyone here. Where on earth do I get wheel trade ideas? Because those are different than credit spreads and time spreads and all those other option trades. These wheel trades, they're trades, but they're part of a long-term investment plan, right? These are things that are near and dear to my heart because I trade the wheel every single day. And a lot of it is just maintenance. You look at it, you hope to not have to make a trade at all. I'm trying to make as few trades as I can a week, but you have to look for new stocks, new opportunities, and shed the old ones sometimes, right? So finding wheel trades and getting trade ideas for them is something that's near and dear to my heart. But it's tricky. It's tricky because there's three things that you need in order to cobble together a decent wheel trade. One, the right stock. Two, the right option. And three, the combination of the right stock and the right option with the plan for that. And that is its own bona fide third thing. So where do we get stock ideas? As far as wheel trades go, getting individual stock ideas, stock investment ideas, especially if we're trading with the trade mentality where, or even I guess the skate mentality, where we are planning on having the stock as a long-term investment and the option is just an overlay strategy to make it even better. I want to find fundamentally or technically solid stocks without going through 12,000 of them every single day. Because first of all, you don't have time to look at charts of 12,000 stocks a day. And second of all, you sure as heck don't have time to research 12,000 stocks a day. I mean, to do a decent job, I might have time to research one a day, on average, anyway. So where do we get these good stock investment ideas? Well, that one is a kind of tried and true sort of scenario. There are some big research houses out there. There are financial advisors who have a team within their larger, broader company that give them guidance to give guidance to their clients. And you kind of need that. One man can't do everything. If you have a financial advisor, he does a lot of talking to you about your trades, holding your hand when the market's down and you're nervous, and making sure you realize you should hold at those points and not sell out at the bottom and calming you down a little bit when the market's at the top and you want to throw a whole bunch more money in. I mean, they have that human role, and to also have the role of amazing analyst. Gosh, man, that would be a pretty darn special person who could do all those things. So they need people at their firms who are just the quants, the geniuses, the men and women who crunch the numbers and figure it all out. And that's useful. They have these not just at advisory firms, but at brokerage firms. There are also rating services out there, and you can find them. I try not to plug too many other companies because if it turns out they're not as good as I thought they were, I don't want to be the person responsible for giving bad advice. But look, you can find these rating services out there. Just Google it and you're going to see some come up and you're like, oh yeah, I know that name. Oh yeah, I know that name. And just take a look, see what they have. And here's the thing. Look, you pay for it. Whether we're talking about getting the trade ideas we were talking about earlier or this research, you pay for it. I mean, yeah, fair enough. Maybe as far as your advisor goes, that's all packaged into the fees, but that's what the fees are paying for. So you do pay for it because it is something that's valuable. There are also online commentators. I don't really know exactly what words to use for them either, but basically much, much smaller versions of a rating service. But the problem you could run into there is that who is this person? And they could be great and they could not be great. It was, what is that White Stripes song from several years back? Any man with a microphone can tell you what he loves the most. Well, yeah, that's the age that we live in right now, right? You can find some blabbermouth on Twitter who's spouting off stock ideas, and they could be great, and they might not be. But here's the really big catch. Whether it's some dude on X spouting off trade ideas or a highly respected conservative brokerage firm, or a rating service, or whoever it is, you're still the person in charge. You still have to approve the idea. And there is just a natural responsibility that comes with that. Because trading and investing is very, very personal. Someone might like this stock, but your time horizon might be 6 months and theirs might be 10 years or 10 days. They might be more conservative or more aggressive. So ultimately, it does come down to you. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. Now, options. So here's the thing about option ideas when it comes to trying to get ideas for trading the wheel. A good option trade is not necessarily a good wheel trade. All wheel trades are option selling trades. So yes, fair enough. Hey, if it's a good option selling trade, if it's part of a credit spread, maybe it can be repurposed for a wheel trade, maybe, but maybe not. And so it kind of has to tie into that master plan, that both, that not just stock investment, not just option trade, but wheel trade for a long-term investment. Now, I will tell you something. I've been doing this whole options thing for a long, long time. More of my time on this earth has been spent thinking about options than anything else. More years have been spent in the options business of my life than not. I've seen a lot of things that people try to put together. And I'm going to tell you, it's pretty hard to put together a covered call trade idea. or a cash cured put trade idea. It's hard to automate it. I've seen people try, and there are some automatic idea generation covered call or cash cured put platforms out there, but they don't do a very good job. So I have decided that this is something that I'm going to do for me and for you. Like I said, I have an idea, man, and I like a challenge. And man, this is a challenge because I've never seen anybody do it yet. I've seen people make claims, but I think I cracked the nuts. It's still going to be just a little bit longer before I make that available, but that is going to be something that people can access on my Substack, which of course is where you go to become a paid subscriber to the show. So there's lots and lots of great things there. And that is one of the things that you'll probably be able to get just down the line. So, hey, if you're listening to this in the future, you're binging this show that was recorded a year ago or something, it's probably there by now. Anyway, let's move on from this idea of services paying for trade ideas to getting trade ideas from cohorts. Cohorts meaning just groups of people that can be a really, really good way actually to get trade ideas. Look, they say two heads are better than one, right? Well, I am here to tell you that, yeah, that's true, man. Two heads are better than one. And you get 10 or 20 or 50 heads in a room. Now we're probably kind of talking here, right? The better ideas tend to cut through. Now, even when, geez Louise, even when I was a kid, because I think I've mentioned on the show before, I've always been kind of a nerd. Even when I was a kid, I was interested in investing and trading and stuff. I remember that the concept of investment clubs was a new thing where people, it was all the rage. This is like the 1980s when Gordon Gekko was the thing, right? People would form investment clubs to talk about stocks. So, I mean, that's been a thing for a long, long time. And it sort of evolved into just sort of looser and different trader groups. And they have had those were in-person things all over the country. I've had many of them fly me out from Chicago to California, Boston, Florida, Texas, all over, man. Oregon. I mean, a lot of different states. They have these trader groups all over. Now, since we have technology now, like Zoom and all that, a lot of those have gone online, but it's still a great way to do it. And I'm going to tell you something. You don't have to be a big expert to put together one of these trader groups. I mean, I might have talked about this on one of the recent episodes, but I heard this thing before, which I kind of try to live my life around, try to be the dumbest, brokest person in the room. Even if you're not very good at investing, especially if you're not very good at investing and you don't have a lot to invest, but you want to get good at it and you want to grow your investments, well, start one of these trader groups with people who are smarter at it than you and have done it a lot more. It's a great idea. And you can do it from wherever. And we have a Slack room with market taker mentoring, like a chat room, so that people can talk about trade ideas. It's one of the things that we know is important, so we make it available for our folks. And some of these groups that I've been to in person or online as a guest speaker, you know, they're kind of formal. They kind of have fun too. It's social, but it's every blah, blah, blah Tuesday of the month or full moon or whatever it is. Sort of formal. There's dues. But it could just be you and some buddies sitting around drinking beer, talking about stocks. And there's nothing wrong with that either. Unless you drink a lot of beer, then you probably don't have a lot of great ideas, but yeah, you know how it goes. But you want to be careful too. Like you might have a friend who is just the nicest guy in the world. And if you ever need a truck to move something, he'll show up with the truck ready to help you move and the pizza and the beer. Great guy, but doesn't know anything about stocks. Like you probably don't want to listen to what he has to say. Invite him to the meetings because he brings the pizza and the beer. But I'm just saying, this is a way to get ideas bouncing around. You learn from each other and you teach, and you learn by teaching, and it just goes around and around, and everybody gets better. It is what they call synergy. Now, the next way to get trade ideas is just from, well, the media. Is just from the media. There's CNBC and Bloomberg TV, and I think there's still newspaper. I made a joke once that, there used to be these things called newspapers, and somebody corrected me that apparently there actually still are newspapers. So I guess you can read about stocks in that and get the ink on your hands like I used to 20 years ago. But there's stuff online. I mean, I subscribe to Bloomberg. I subscribe to the New York Times. I subscribe to lots of different news sources that I think are really, really good, especially ones that have a financial focus. That's really the reason why I read the news, is just for financial stuff, because that's what I do and that's what I find interesting. As far as media consumption is concerned, it's important to peel away and throw out that outer couple layers of the onion. The stocks talked about most in the news, they tend to be the ones that either just made some big, huge directional move, or ones that have been just trending strongly one way or the other. Oh, this stock is up 100% on the year this year. These are the kind of stocks that tend to make for less than perfect candidates for wheel trades. The best wheel trades are those sideways ones where the stock goes up a little, down a little, up a little, down a little, but really 3 months go by and the price isn't too much different. That means you probably just made a whole bunch selling covered calls and or cash secured puts. Selling options is selling volatility. Let me say that again. Selling options is selling volatility. This is a phrase that somehow or another I ended up being kind of known for. Like I literally have gone to in-person events with other traders, and somebody would come up to me and say, selling options is selling volatility. Like, okay. I guess that's one of the things you picked up from something I said. Okay, good. But, it's an important thing to pick up, I think. The more movement in underlying stock is experiencing, the more of a challenge it is for covered calls or cash secured puts. I mean, movement in the underlying doesn't nullify the use case for covered calls or cash secured puts. It just makes the stocks that the pundits like to talk about a little tougher to trade, because nobody wants to listen to somebody talk about a stock that is boring. It's the old, it bleeds, it leads. But with stocks, I mean, if it's up a whole bunch or if it's down a whole bunch, it leads. That doesn't rhyme at all, but it's kind of how it works in financial journalism. You don't turn on the TV and some famous person has got his financial show out there and says, look at this stock. This stock hasn't moved in 3 years. This is the most boring stock I've ever seen. He's not going to talk about that one. But those are the ones that are the best for covered calls and cash secured puts. Like I said, the more volatile ones, it doesn't nullify the case for them, and some of them can be very good too, but I'm just saying with the media, sometimes it's a little bit trickier to get good wheel trade ideas from TV or reading news online and stuff like that. Just not what they talk about. Now, the final way to get trade ideas is DIY. Do it yourself. And boy, oh boy, that can feel daunting. And I know that every single person listening to this show is different from every other single person listening to this show. Some have absolutely no experience with stocks or options or anything, but you're interested. Some have been investing for themselves in stocks for years and they want to get into the wheel. Some have been trading options for years and they want to get into investing. Whatever. I mean, there's just a million permutations. And so I know that it can be difficult to wrap your head around the seemingly many, many things that are seemingly important for trading the wheel. Me personally, I started my trading career, my entry into options. The first option trade I ever made was standing in the SPX pit on the floor of the Chicago Board Options Exchange. I just stood in that pit for a couple of days. My boss wanted me to stay in there just to yell and shout and trade a couple 5 lots and try not to lose too much money just to get my feet wet before I went into the Ford Motor Company pit where I did most of my career. That was my first foray into options. It was the first experience I ever had. I never really got any formal training on fundamental analysis until a good handful of years ago. I started teaching myself and talking to people that I knew who were very good at it. The idea that you could teach yourself is sort of a non-truism. Nobody can teach themselves. You're always learning something from information that's already exists from somebody else. So yeah, I mean, I talked to a lot of people I knew. I read books, learned, did some classes and such. It took me a while to get better at the fundamental analysis. I'd learned technical analysis many, many years before that, and options. But here's what I caution. Don't feel like it's too much. Don't feel overwhelmed by it. First of all, it is very common for option traders to not use fundamental analysis, and you never have to. You don't. I think it's helpful for things like trading the wheel and long-term investing. I really do. But if that's not your thing, it's okay. I think technical analysis is very, very useful too. But if that's not your thing, that's okay too. Volatility analysis, yeah, if you're going to be trading options, you better use some of it. You don't have to be an expert at it, but you want to work it in a little bit. So as far as the DIY goes, that's what we're going to be talking about in a couple of episodes in the very, very near future. I don't think we can cover, in fact, I know we can cover everything that I want to talk about in one episode. We'll probably break it out into easily at least 3 episodes, maybe one on fundamental, one on technical, one on volatility. And those, my friends, are coming soon. And that about wraps it up for this show. But before you go, please make sure you're subscribed to this show on your favorite podcast platform so it lets you know when the next episode is released. Whether that platform is Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is. And if you would be so kind as to leave a review and let me know what you think of the show and how it's going, what you'd like to hear about, what we can do better, what you love, I would surely appreciate it. Until next time, invest excellently.
Options involve risk and are not suitable for all investors. Before buying or selling an option, read characteristics and risks of standardized options. A link is provided in the show notes. To learn more about your host, Dan Passarelli, please visit markettaker.com.